Good. I got a CD for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, Gary Sunshine had put a CD out a few years ago called like Beers, Guitar Picks, and Old Records, something like that.
I got it.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, he sent. He was asking people, yeah, hey, help me out, buy
yeah,
something. So I bought. He had like a package where it came with like a booklet. So
yeah,
I bought that.
yeah. So did I.
Oh, okay. Well, fuck.
Yeah, yeah. I did that about a month ago. Yeah, I came with a record, a book, and a CD.
Okay, he sent me two CDs in the book.
Really?
Yeah, so I was gonna give you one of the CDs. That's
Yeah.
what. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So did you hear this crazy shit? If I guess the past 3 nights or something like that, there was this fight at a Cromag show, like the Harley Cromags, and it's
Mm-mm.
all over fucking internet right now. Like it just there's two sides to the story. Apparently, it's something to the effect of I think it was in Maryland. Some people had a zine and had contacted him about doing an interview.
Mm-hmm.
So they were there to do their zine thing, and the couple people that do the zine wear these ski masks, and like that's kind of, I guess, how they kind of do whatever to stand out. And so one of them, some girl was with him who like helps with the zine, but then they claim they're this whole like punk rock collective and shit. Like, where apparently they're saying like Harley had said some like kind of like sexual shit to this girl, like, but in front of other people. Now he's fucking married. He's married to a lawyer who handles like all the business side of the Cro-Mag stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, like what was really said, or how blown out of proportion did they make like whatever he said? And then this girl was just like, I guess the comment was she was wearing like some straight up just like slutty stuff. Like there were other people commenting like she was wearing some fishnet thing with no bra and you could completely see her tits.
Yeah.
And like I guess he had commented whatever whether it was tasteful, distasteful, whatever, to where somehow a fight breaks out. They start fucking these zine fucks with the ski mask, like are Mason, like Harley, and Harley said his son was with him, which his son I think was like 15, maybe a little older, something like that. Like if they were fighting back, and now there's all this shit like the whole cancel culture shit. Like they need out of our scene, and no, like hitting up all these because they're on a tour right now. Cromags are right, and they're hitting up all these other venues. Like, hey, don't have them play your venue. And
Oh my God.
uh, I said this has happened literally within the past few days. I know you don't really follow Instagram shit, but it's just fucking insane. Just yeah, just drama as fuck. And so whatever the real story may be, I have no clue. Like, but I mean, my consensus of it is these kids, it's clearly these kids, I think we're really trying to blow this whole like he probably said something that pissed this girl off or whatever. And I think they just like blew it out of fucking proportion. And they're acting like, oh, this is our scene, don't
Mhm.
disrespect. This is, family of our community and shit. Like,
Cromags is one of the inventors of that scene.
yeah, yeah. And that's what I was. And like I say, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, wasn't there exactly what he may have said to this girl,
Mhm.
but even like I said, people saying, and then people were like posting like she has an OnlyFans and like posting shit like for like. So it's kind of like you put yourself in a situation to like you're gonna react if people like you show up wearing shit like that to
Yeah.
like a social event, a show,
Mhm.
whatever, right? But yet you don't think people are gonna
Yeah,
like
really.
you know, like,
Yeah, no shit.
and some other girl from that town or whatever is like, no, it's people shouldn't shame her for wearing that. You know, girls can wear whatever they want to make themselves feel good, and you know, it can be whatever, and they shouldn't. We shouldn't have to worry about guys sexually assaulting us because apparently, like he had like smacked her on the thigh or some shit. They say too, like I sexually assaulted her and how he approached her with it, like. So you don't think? I mean, I don't know. It just seems that.
I don't know. It's yeah, like you said, she probably did some. He probably did something pissed her off, and then now she's going to accuse him of all this shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole thing too with these couple dudes that wear the ski masks, like, start, I don't know how the fight thing start. And there's a little video. Okay, that's part of it too. There's a video clip of this fight, and it's a matter of seconds long. And you can't even tell who's who in the clip. Like they're saying it's like dudes that are in the Cromags band now, like, but yet they're saying none of us were those guys. Like nobody in my band were these guys in this video. And then like you kind of see what I think is Harley, like kind of come up on like the situation, but there's like people like kind of put like it's this girl you could tell, and they're like trying. One dude's got her leg, and so who know? They're saying like she had, I don't know if she had mace or her, and but I don't see these idiots with the fucking ski mask anywhere in this little video clip.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing how that shit's like a shitstorm on fucking social media, you know, like Loudwire and shit like that are already like jumping on it. Like,
I have to look it up. Yeah, I haven't. I don't get on social media much. Like, I have to look it up.
yeah,
Be crazy.
yeah,
All right, ready to get started?
yeah,
All right. What's up, YouTube? This is Take Five Podcast. Today's topic is top five strange tour lineups.
yeah.
All right, what do you get for number five?
Well, I really didn't have a chance to rank mine yet, so I'm just gonna
Yeah, I'm kind of the
pick.
same.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pick one. So this one I found out about today. A few of them I've had written down for about a week, but this one I saw today, and I was like, that's a little odd pairing, even for this time. It was back in '67, and I think I read it was just a handful of shows. It was Jimi Hendrix and the Monkees. You
It's
got
funny you
you,
say that because I had that on my list.
yeah. Like I think that is a strange
Yeah,
pairing for that time, or
yeah.
any time really. I
I
mean,
remember was it high school? I did a essay on Jimi Hendrix for Black History Month.
oh, okay.
Yeah, and I talked about
Well,
that.
wait. Jimi Hendrix was black.
And no, he was Chinese. But
Okay.
but yeah, like and I remember reading up on it and hearing he got booed off the stage and everything.
Okay, I see. I didn't
Yeah,
see any of that, but
yeah. Because I mean that, like you said, that's an odd pair, even for that time. I mean,
right. Yeah.
Monkeys were, they weren't a real band and they were like comedy and
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Hendrix was no nonsense, just rock and roll, But yeah, that's a legendary tour, man. That's so when I was doing this list, it was like that was always number one on them. But yeah, I had that as since we didn't really rank them, I'll take that one out because I had that too. Um, okay, then I had can't remember what year this was, but it was Alice in Chains
Okay.
opening up for Extreme.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it,
Especially at that time, because I mean they also Alice in Chains also toured with Van Halen, which is kind of odd, but
and then they were on that Clash of the Titans
yeah,
tour
I seen them on
also.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think the business side of it was trying to like put Alice in Chains into a few different categories.
Yeah,
Um, and either people liked it or didn't, I mean, um, that's what I feel was because I do think they were one of those bands that kind of hard to categorize.
yeah,
I mean, it's simple to lump it in with the grunge shit because they were from Seattle, but they don't necessarily fall, even from my thoughts, as necessarily a grunge band either.
yeah. We'll see grunge. Like I hate that term because
Okay.
that's not that's just something they kind of threw on them. But Alan Chains compared to like Nirvana was totally different.
Oh
You know what I
yes,
mean? Like Alan Chains, I consider more of like a hard rock metal band.
I would agree totally.
So
Yes.
like so them being on the Clash of Titans, even though they're not as heavy as other bands, but they're as dark lyrically as those other bands. You know what I mean? So I think they fit in more
Mhm,
because Extreme is, more of a happy, funky type band. Like it's
mhm.
I don't know, it just seemed odd. It's like because they're on
Well,
there,
even
singing about
Extreme,
death and
yeah,
shit.
it's Extreme was pigeonholed as with the whole hair band thing,
Yeah.
and like you said, they were more than that. Also,
Mm-hmm.
musically, um, but yeah, it's yeah, man, that's I could see that being a clash of
Yeah.
like audience type.
But it's funny because when you think about some Chains, like they were labeled under the whole grunge thing, but they toured with, like I said, Van Halen. They toured with Extreme, Clash of Titans tour. I think they toured with Metallica. But then you got Nirvana.
Probably.
You know, like what big bands did Nirvana open up for? None that I can think of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
It's like
because
I
I think
remember
they went right from like a club, like
clubs to
doing their own
headlining.
clubs to have
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
but I know Axel wanted him to go on the Metallica and Guns N' Roses tour, but
Wanted out the chains.
no, Nirvana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he was a big fan of Nirvana, but Kurt Cobain hated Guns N' Roses and everything they were about, I guess. And but then I did hear that they were supposed to play with, I can't remember what other band, but their management said they were too alternative or something for that tour. It's like
Yeah.
so they kind of had their own thing. But like Alice in Chains, they were so like their style was so different that they could kind of fit with all those bands. But I
Hmm.
just thought the extreme one was kind of odd.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree.
All right, what you got for number 4?
Well, this is another one I saw that this band, who became one of the biggest rock bands of the '80s. Early on, when they were, you know, getting on tours or whatever, it looks like back in '78, Def Leppard opened some shows for the Human League in the UK.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I seen that. Yeah,
yeah.
that is
So
weird. Yeah.
that's yeah, and especially I don't know. I mean, it would be weird whenever, but um, yeah, I don't. The Human League were clearly a new wave type thing,
Mhm.
and Def Leppard at the time were, kind of new wave of British heavy metal hard
Yeah,
rock.
yeah.
So yeah, that's totally
But
a
it's funny
weird.
because I could see them doing it more now than back then because now they tour. I've seen. I didn't see them, but I know they tour with like Brian Adams and stuff like that
Okay,
now. So it would make more sense if they did it now instead of back then. Yeah,
yeah,
because they were more, heavier.
yeah.
Human League was a straight up like new wave like pop stuff.
Hmm. Yep. So it was interesting to see that, and that was, I definitely think, an odd pairing.
Yeah. All right. Um, my number four. This wasn't really a tour, but it was like kind of a one-off thing. But it's still kind of odd.
I think I know what
Foz,
you're going
Fozzy opening up for the Murder Junkies.
to. Okay. That's not what I thought you were going to say, but yeah. How long ago was that?
Oh man, it's I don't know, probably about 10 years ago. Like Jericho talks about it a lot. I think it was like it was an off night and
Okay.
they wanted to play and they somehow got on the show and it was nobody there because murder junkies don't really draw and
Or if they do, it's that
yeah
this
well
whole
yeah
yeah
see
following.
that's
Yeah.
what I was gonna say next like
Yeah.
and the people that were there was all murder junkie fans
Right.
and I guess when Fozzy was playing like Jericho was like running out in the crowd trying to get people going all this stuff. And there's a story where he's getting trying to get people to stand up and he's yelling at this dude like get off your ass and stand up and find out the dude was like in a wheelchair or something.
Oh wow.
So he felt
Yeah.
like shit. But
Yeah.
yeah, like that's so that wasn't really a tour, but it's still like a weird show. And I mean I would love it, but I can imagine, like
Yeah. I think you'd
murder
be one
drunky
of the few
fans.
that would like to see both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what I thought you were going to say, and I guess I'll do this as my number three,
Okay.
which I really didn't have written down because similar thing. It wasn't necessarily a tour. I think it was like it was either supposed to be three shows, and they may have only did one, or maybe they did do all three shows. I guess this was back in the early '80s. So the Ramones opened a few shows for Toto.
Yeah. Well, see, you say that like I have a list of bands Ramones toured with, so I
Okay.
was going to throw all those in the honorable mentions because there's a lot of weird bands that they toured with. But yeah, like
Okay.
I was going to have that in the list when I was going through it, and there were so many of them. But yeah, that is odd show.
Hmm. Yeah, Toto being especially in the early '80s were fucking huge.
Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, fucking huge. We're a huge radio band, just huge, played arenas and shit. Like, that, yeah. So, yeah. And like I said, I didn't necessarily have this on the list, but
Yeah,
I didn't just because it wasn't necessarily a tour, is really why I didn't write it down. But
yeah.
when you brought up once, that's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, like I said
Yeah.
like that. I have that as an honorable mention, like I said, because there's a shitload of Ramones tours that was crazy.
Okay.
All right, my number three. This was actually several years ago. Um, Van Halen with "Cool in the Game."
I had no idea that
Yeah,
was a fucking tour.
that was like 10 years ago when they got back with Rolf on that last
Yeah.
tour. Yeah, they got. I think they played like Cincinnati or Kentucky or somewhere around there. But yeah, like
Yeah. Okay.
always
Wow.
thought that was a weird tour.
Oh, 100% weird. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
funny because
That's
like
bizarre.
they're I've seen Van Halen has had a lot of good bands open for them, but I've also heard that they don't want to get they don't want to sell more merchandise. They don't want the opening band to sell more merchandise than them, so they get bands that Van Halen fans wouldn't really, be into.
Yeah.
But like I said, maybe that's a David Lee Roth thing because with Sammy Hagar, that's when they did the whole Alice in Chains, and and they
Mm.
had bigger bands playing with them. But I've always heard that. I don't know if it's a rumor or not, but I always find it interesting.
Yeah. That is a bizarre pairing.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right, what you got for number two?
Um, okay. So I'll pick, fuck. I'll pick this one. And so yeah, this was just back in 2019. Blink 182 and Lil Wayne.
Yep, I had that as honorable mention. That
Yeah.
tour bombed.
Oh, well, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get why it would. I mean, yeah. I could.
Now, see, like, I would rather see Little Wayne than I would Blink.
Okay. I mean, I saw Blink back in the early 2000s. It might have been 2000, 2001.
Yeah, see, I seen
Back
him
when they
in
were
like,
relevant. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I seen him in like '97 or something on the Warp Tour.
yeah.
Didn't know who they were, but I know like Little Wayne put out that rock record, and he was trying
Okay.
to like
Okay. Yeah. I kind of forgot about that.
yeah,
So, with that being said, maybe that makes at least a little more sense then.
yeah. Because I think even
Um,
Travis Barker played drums on it. So I
okay.
mean, but it's still
Okay,
an odd
that makes a
pairing. Like,
little. It is, yeah. Without knowing that, yeah, that makes a little more sense. But
yeah.
yeah. So I think that was a weird one. Yeah.
Mm. All right, my number two. This happened back in probably mid '80s, but Beastie Boys opening for Madonna.
I had that as an honorable mention. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was 85 because I
yeah,
wrote down the years for all the ones I have wrote down. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah, I totally agreed that that was a weird pairing. Yeah. Yep.
for sure. All right, what you got for number one?
Well, number one, I'll go with this was when we talked about doing this topic. This was one of the couple that immediately came to mind. Um, it was in '74. It was one of Kiss's first tours, opening for Savoy Brown. And how I know about this is I remember within the past few years, Gene Simmons talking about the business side of it and how it was like Savoy, like they went out with that, like that's not the audience that Kiss, this
Mm.
brand new band, okay, that's not who you put in front of Savoy Brown. Like the idea of of an opening band is to put a potential new band in front of an audience that they could potentially appeal to.
Yeah.
And how he was saying like how they were like, yeah, it was like Savoy Brown. Like I remember when they told us, and him just being like, what? So
Yeah.
yeah, so that made my number one because, like I said, that when we talked about this, that immediately came to mind, and Gene Simmons, when I heard him talking about that.
Yeah. All right. My number one, you may not remember this one. I would actually like to have seen it just for a couple of the acts. But in the summer of '91, Sisters of Mercy with Public Enemy.
No, I don't
Also,
remember that.
Gang of Four and Warrior Soul was on that bill.
Oh wow, okay,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
that's all over the place.
yeah, very all over the place. Yeah.
I mean, like every one of those artists is like a different style.
Hmm.
And it totally bombed too. I mean, like, it's like, I don't think it even did the full leg. I think it like got canceled. That
Yeah,
was
I
like, I think that was before like Warp Tour started. Maybe it's around that
probably
time because I mean, not Warp Tour, but I meant Lollapalooza because they had
okay.
tours like that. But
Hmm.
yeah, this totally bombed.
Yeah, like I said, I don't remember it. I mean, I may have known about it back then, but no, I didn't remember that. That is
Now,
odd, also. Yeah.
see, 'cause I remembered. I didn't remember Sisters of Mercy playing, but matter of fact, when I did this, I looked up Warrior Soul and Public Enemy. I remember those two touring together. But then
Okay.
Sisters of Mercy, I forgot about her. I didn't know. As like, yeah, I was thinking it was like Public Enemy and Warrior Soul tour. And I'm like, that would have been really weird too. Just
Hmm. Oh yeah.
all right, what you got for honorable mentions?
Well, one of my honorable mentions. kind of goes in line with you talking about Public Enemy, and also you talking about the Beastie Boys and Madonna. So in '87, the Beastie Boys did a tour with Murphy's Law and Fishbone.
Oh yeah, it
It,
came to Columbus.
yeah, and I guess Public Enemy were on some of those
Hmm.
dates, but I don't think they were on the entire tour. That's just kind of for then kind of an odd pairing too. I
Yeah,
well, for different styles, all
yeah.
different
Well,
styles.
yeah, but the early Beastie Boys stuff was punk rock, though. You know.
Of course it was, but in
Yeah,
'87,
yeah. I
whoever
know.
was at that Beastie Boy didn't know that the fuck they were a punk rock
Yeah,
band
I
prior.
know. But yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that
yeah,
they that show came to, I think it was the Vets
probably in
Memorial,
Ohio. Yeah.
and and I think they got banned from playing Columbus because they had this big rubber dick or something on stage or some
Mm,
shit. Yeah, like I remember hearing something like that. A buddy of mine,
absolutely.
you've met Jeff, didn't you? Got
Yeah,
the long hair. Yeah, he
yeah.
was at that show.
Now I think that would have been an awesome show
Yeah,
to have witnessed.
yeah.
Yeah.
See, I don't remember
Uh,
Murphy's Law being on it, but I do remember Fishbone was there.
yeah, it was Fishbone, Murphy's Law, Beastie Boys. And like I
See,
said, Public Enemy were on some of the shows. Yeah.
yeah,
And Murphy's Law was on it because the Beastie Boys was into what Murphy's Law was doing at that time. This is '87.
mm,
Um, so yeah, that would have been fucking pretty cool to see. But I think especially for Beastie Boy, I'm just going to generalize people that were into the Beastie Boys at that time. It was Licensed to Ill was huge. It
yeah,
was their headlining thing. People were going to go just because they knew the videos and the songs and shit. And like,
yeah,
I guarantee most of those people had no clue who Fishbone or Murphy's Law were, because neither of those bands were nowhere near the popularity and the mainstream that the Beastie Boys were in '87.
yeah. And I
Yeah,
at that time I didn't know Beastie Boys' earlier stuff.
right. And I
Yeah,
didn't
so
either.
so
Yeah,
even so even we didn't know that. So yeah, so I'm
yeah,
sure people that was there, if they would have done any of that, they would have been like, what the hell's this?
yeah, yeah. So the only other, because we talked about the Blank, Little Wayne, Madonna, Beastie Boys, Def Leppard, Human League, Hendrix, Monkey. I thought this one was weird. In 2009, not that long ago, um, and this was a tour. This wasn't just like these two bands on a fest type thing. Coheed and Cambria and Heaven and Hell.
Oh yeah, I remember that
Yeah,
tour. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I think that was an odd pairing.
yeah.
I mean,
I think
yeah.
Coheed's one of those bands that's kind of tours with different styles too.
Okay.
But yeah, but Heaven
I'm
and
not.
Hell is kind of, yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, Heaven and Hell. I think. Well, I think both bands are going to pull their own crowds,
Yeah,
and I don't think too many of either band's crowd were really going to be that into the other band. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah. Um, so that's the only other one I had. To put out as an honorable mention.
There was one that actually came to Columbus recently. This Five Finger Death Punch and some country artist,
Okay.
Luke Bryan or something like that,
Yep.
which I thought that was kind of a weird tour.
Yeah.
That was
And
here
I
within
thought
like
that
the
Luke
last
Bryan
year.
was pretty huge
Yeah.
too
I
in the
mean that
country.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those. I mean it's one of those. They're all sound the same to me.
Okay.
I mean I don't
Okay.
know if it was Luke Bryan, Kane Brown, or it's one of those dudes.
Okay.
I'll add it on here in post, but I always thought that was weird. Then here's a pretty famous one: Stones and Prince,
Wow.
back in
See, I
the
don't think I
'70s.
remember that. Okay.
And once again, Prince got booed off the stage. But man, dude, imagine seeing that show, man.
That would have been cool. Yeah.
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 Um,
Yeah.
all right, and here's some weird tours that Ramones was on.
Okay.
See how diverse they were. Okay, Foreigner, they played with Foreigner.
I think I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Black Sabbath,
Okay.
Joe Jackson.
That's that's the most bizarre one so
Yeah.
far. Even more
Here's
bizarre than Toto.
yeah, Wrathchild America.
Okay.
See, that's odd to me. Loudness,
Yeah.
Prong, Saigon Kick.
Yeah, that's a weird one. Yeah.
And that was like in early '90s, like '91 or something.
Okay.
And House of Pain.
That's a little weird too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
apparently.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. Like the bands that Ramones have toured with. It's like,
Yeah.
but I mean, but in their defense, they're one of those bands that, if you're into any kind of rock, like you're going to like them. You know what I mean? I'm not saying everybody
Mhm.
likes them, but I mean, but if you're into punk, you like them, metal, rock and roll, glam, whatever. The
Yeah,
Ramones kind of fit into all those.
I agree.
I know U2 toured with some, had some crazy lineups too, like Rage Against the Machine,
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I did see that. But
Fun Loving Criminals.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Jay
like them.
Z. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Jay
Yeah.
Z, Kanye West. Uh,
That's odd. Yeah, kind of
yeah,
too much alpha male shit going on there.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not a U2 fan, but I thought those are
me either. Like
yeah,
I once again, man, it's one of those bands. Like I think I've said this before. To me, U2 are the most overrated band in music history.
yeah. I
Doesn't
agree.
mean that I don't think they're not talented, that they're good, whatever. Their music's not my thing, and that's
Yeah,
okay. But
mm.
how fucking just blown, oh, I just think absolutely overrated.
Yeah. They're so overrated that I
Yeah.
remember they automatically put their album on like on iTunes or something and gave it was on ended up on everybody's iPod or some shit. I mean, how fucking shitty is that?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, like
I,
they're making you listen to that shit.
yeah. Like I said, there's just, and we've said it, we're not one to shit talk people, but it's more to me, the Bono's like, I just feel like this dude has this attitude of like he's like I said, man, I just think they're so fucking overrated, and I don't get
Yeah.
how people buy into, like, if you're into them, cool. If you're into their music and some of their lyrics, or kind of said
Now,
something.
now some of their earlier stuff I don't mind, like "Pride in the Name of Love." I like that song.
Okay, I said I
One,
don't
like I
think they're
like
like
some of their
horrible
songs.
musicians,
Yeah,
but I just don't care. No, like I just think they're so fucking over. I remember when I worked at Media Play, even like one of the dudes that worked in the back, like, came out like of the back and was like, "The new U2 is here." Like, was everybody in the store just supposed to fucking stop and like buy a copy, or like he was so all about it? I
yeah,
mean, yeah,
yeah. I was the same. Well, another one, The Doors with Simon and Garfunkel.
yeah, yeah. That's an odd pairing.
It is,
Sure.
it's an odd pairing, but also at that time, they didn't have all the bands that's out now. You know what I mean? So it's kind of,
Hmm.
and they
And
were
I think
two,
that went back to they may have had the same management or the same
yeah,
booking agent or some shit, because that's how a lot of bands get paired up too.
yeah,
Like
on the
if you're on
same
the
label or
same,
something. Yeah,
yeah, or a lot of the time same booking agents roster
yeah,
of bands, they want to pair, send out all their bands,
yeah.
and
But also
so
in the
that
'60s, what I mean, you don't have many options back then. You know what I
that's
mean? Like
true. Yeah, yeah,
and both of them they could have. It was probably a co-headlining tour because both of them would draw. You know what I mean? So it was probably and it'd be one of those things where the audience would shift for each band,
yeah, yeah,
probably.
right.
All right, that's all I had on those.
Yeah, me too.
All right, Album of the week, released August 17th, 1984. The debut album from W.A.S.P, self-titled album, W.A.S.P. I remember when I first heard Shout the Devil, I was, I was on a kick where I wanted to find bands that was kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
And a buddy of mine who lived a couple houses down the street, who kind of got me into a lot of music, he had the vinyl. And he was like,
Oh, okay.
well, if you like Shout the Devil, you'll like this. And I wasn't disappointed, man.
Yeah.
That, I mean, for that time, that album was heavy too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not so much now, but I mean, especially they're considered a hair band. I mean, they're like,
Yeah. They come from that era, but I
yeah,
also think for that time, Shout at the Devil and that album felt like were heavy metal.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure,
That was heavy metal for them,
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. What were some of your favorite tracks on that record?
Um, I mean, obviously the cup, I Want to Be Somebody, because that's to this day an anthem Wasp song.
Yeah,
Um, I like School Days off of that.
yeah, it's a good one.
Um, Love Machine, they did a video for that. I Want to Be Somebody. Uh, a Tormentor, On Your Knees. I mean, that's another one that's good all the way through.
Yeah,
Um, and
well,
then the whole thing with how Animal was supposed to be on that album,
yeah, I know.
but the label wasn't going to let him put it on it, so they ended up doing it as a single, and it was fucking huge.
Yeah, I know. And then
Yeah,
they re-released it on like years later, and they put that
yeah,
on there as the
yeah.
first track. But Love Machine, so good. The Flame,
The Flame, yes,
Sleeping in the
absolutely.
Fire, dude.
Yeah,
I know you're not into ballads, man, but Sleeping in the Fire is so fucking good, man.
yeah. I'm glad you said The Flame because I do like I said, School Days, but The Flame's a fucking real good one off that record, man.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, well, I knew this too that you said your dude in the neighborhood had the vinyl of that, correct?
yeah,
Well, I had a vinyl version of that back when I was into the record collecting thing about 10, 12 years ago. And the version I had was one of the, I'm not going to say original pressings, but one of the pressings from the, 84.
yeah.
And,
Well, I ended up, yeah, I had it.
okay, well, where I'm going at with this is, on the in near the just outside of the sticker label,
Yeah, I looked
written
that
is
up. There's a name for that.
the Winged
Um,
Assassins. That's what I'm talking about.
um, well, what I'm thinking of is where it says we are sexual perverts.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, there was some that said Winged Assassin, or maybe on one side it said that, then the other side said Winged Assassins. And then I guess there were actual cassette copies of that album that came out that said Wasp, but then under it said Winged Assassins, as people would take that as if that's what the album was called.
yeah,
How it would say it on the cassette,
mm,
like the side, like if you're looking at the side of the cassette, like as if that was the name of the album, Winged
yeah,
Assassins. And I remember the one I had, the record I had the Winged Assassins, and I think the other side did say that we are sexual perverts.
yeah.
Yeah.
See, yeah, because like after I heard it, I ended up buying the record, and it was probably '84 when I bought it. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I don't remember the Winged Assassins, but I know it's called the Matrix number, the dead wax run out area. It's like the
Okay.
shiny part, next to the
Right.
label.
Yeah. Yeah.
It had "We Are Sexual Perverts" carved in it, and
Yeah.
yeah, and that was like the version I had. Yeah,
And the Winged Assassins was the same way.
Really? See,
The
I see. I
cars
don't
in it.
remember.
Yeah,
Yeah, see, I don't
yeah,
remember that one. You
yeah.
said it was on the other side.
Well, I know for sure the one I had, the album I had the Winged Assassins, but I'm saying there may have been the possibility that the other side of the album may have had the Weird Sexual Perverts on the one I had. I just didn't, maybe I just don't remember it or
Well,
realize it.
unless there was like different releases.
Some that did, some that, yeah,
Yeah,
it could be
because
too.
I remember one and you remember the other. I mean,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
about when did you have that record? Like when it first came out?
No, I had it when I was collecting records about 10,
Also, yeah,
12 years ago.
yeah. So
But that album, it wasn't like a reissue or anything. It had to have been from back in probably 84, 85,
mhm,
from that time. Like I said, it wasn't any sort of reissue. I
yeah,
found it used for like $7, $10, whatever,
yeah,
like had a little bit of wear to it. So it was clearly from back then. Like I said, it wasn't no any
yeah,
reissue.
yeah. Maybe they just had different editions then, because
Well, there was clearly had to have been different pressings of that album because albums still sold then.
yeah,
So they might have done a run of 50,000 at first, then another 50,000, and then
mm, yeah,
how. Yeah, so yeah, I totally agree. That's very possible.
yeah. Because like I mean, that's one thing that always stood out. It's like, and it's funny because I don't even remember how I discovered that, but I've always looked at records after that to see if there was
Yeah.
any other like hidden, messages like that.
Yep.
But it's funny because I think even W.A.S.P now will say like, well, it doesn't stand for we are sexual perverts, but at that time that it even had it on the record, so
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. So at one time, either it was an inside joke or what, but
And that's what I always heard because do you know who Rick Fox is? You've heard about people talk about a guy named Rick Fox.
yeah,
Well, Rick Fox was originally in Wasp, and the word is he's the one that even suggested to Blackie, like, they didn't have a band name yet. Well, let's call it Wasp. And Blackie was even like, Wasp. He was like, what? And made some like that's kind of dumb. Like, whatever band's ever been like a bug, a bug. And he's like, oh, how about the Beatles? How huge were they?
yeah,
So they end up using Wasp. And then I guess Blackie was the one that to put the dots after each of the letters to
hmm,
leave people to believe whatever maybe they wanted to think it could
yeah.
have stood for. So that's where I think, yeah, the kind of inside thing of we are sexual perverts kind of came
Wasn't
from.
I think Wasp is a cool name though. Like I
Oh,
always
I
thought
agree.
it,
I
it
don't think it's stupid.
yeah, and it
Yeah.
fits them. But wasn't there a band from the '70s called like Praying Mantis or some shit?
There might have been. I know there was one in the late '80s that was like I think Chuck Schuldiner from Death had something to do with that. A praying mantis,
Really?
like
For some
early
reason,
death metal band in like
yeah.
the
For some
mid
reason, I was
'80s.
thinking '70s, but yeah, like, and that's not as catchy as Wasp.
Yeah. Well, too, and now I'm remembering like something he was like, Rick Fox and maybe him and Blackie had talked about it, like a one word band name that would be easy for people to remember, like
Yeah.
Wasp. Why not? And he said he was outside, like Rick Fox on the phone, or had like a wasp was chasing him, or he saw a wasp on the ground, and he's just kind of throwing out ideas, and it was staying with Blackie at the time, and it
Yeah.
said, yeah, what about Wasp? As they're throwing out ideas for band, and he was like, Wasp, like a bug. Yeah,
But see, but also Wasp, it's like one of the most like dangerous insects. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to
yeah,
fuck with a wasp. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's at least they weren't called Bumblebee or some shit.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Roly poly and shit.
Right. Um, and yeah, man, that band even back then was I mean, some of those dudes, even Blackie's talked about it. How he'll watch. He said at some point he hadn't watched videos of that era of the band in like years, and watched some shit from like maybe right around when they got signed or around when that record came out, and he was
Mm.
like, "Wow." He was like, "I really forgot how like fucking insane we were." Like,
Like I said, I mean, it was nothing really like it. You know what I mean? Like, it,
yeah,
Motley Crue had the look and stuff, but they didn't go as deep as Wasp. I mean, the Wasp had the stage show. Like they had it
hmm
all. And
yeah,
they're always one of my bucket list bands. I've seen them probably 5 or 6 times, but I didn't see them until the '90s.
yeah,
So
okay,
I never got to see the original lineup. I never got to see like
yeah,
and but this last tour, show I took Rosie to, they did Animal, which is cool because they haven't done that song in
mhm,
years because I guess he's super religious now and he you
yeah,
know tries to avoid a lot of those songs, but they did a lot off that first record, so I mean
yeah.
it was cool.
Well, there's stuff on YouTube of them. They had some pretty infamous shows. They had played the Troubadour a lot, and there's a lot of good footage from like 83, 84 of them from the Troubadour on YouTube, man. Like with light, like they had the big metal W.A.S.P sign above the drummer, and how even and the Troubadour is a smaller club.
Yeah,
Black, you would go and light it on
lit it up.
fire, and
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, lit it up. Having a woman in the the box to throwing the raw meat, like
yeah, I know.
yeah,
So that'd have been insane, man.
yeah,
Yeah, so good. I have a VHS of them. I can't remember. They had like their videos on it, and I think I had
yeah.
like
I know.
interviews and stuff. Like,
Yeah, it was called Wasp and the Raw.
yeah, yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking.
yeah. I
I
still
had it
have
also.
that shit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's awesome. I had it too, man. That's on YouTube too in different parts. But
yeah.
so yeah, there's stuff on that VHS that's from some of the those early Troubadour shows. Yeah,
Sweet.
but yeah, man, good record. You know, another classic. And I want to be somebody and Love Machine are, like you said, still in their catalog to this day. I
Yeah,
want to be somebody who's one of their, you know that Blind in Texas, just real anthem like songs.
yeah. Like, I liked Last Command, and
Hmm.
I like a lot of the stuff that they're putting out now. But it's just that first record, man. Just, dude, it just like I said, it's so heavy, so dark.
Hmm.
Like, it's funny because like the next record, Blackie was the only one on the cover,
Yeah.
and that started causing like friction between them, because becoming like the Blackie Lawless band, and like because
Hmm.
he would be in like all album covers and shit, But Chris Holmes, man, like it's gotta have Chris Holmes.
I agree. And for that first record and The Last Command, it was Holmes and Piper, man.
Yeah,
It Amazing guitar team. Um, Yeah. So if we're talking on the first record, man, it's both Randy Piper and Chris Holmes, both, man. And yeah, I totally agree now. Like I would accept Wasp more if Chris Holmes was still a part of it. Um, Johnny Rod's even talked about like, hey man, I'm available. I want to do it.
hmm
Hey, so and I like that inside the electric circuit stuff. And I
I
like the
didn't
headless chicken
then,
stuff. Yeah.
but looking back, I like it now, and I like Headless Children and
Yeah.
Crimson Idol. I think is a great record, which I didn't. That's the first time I seen him was on that tour, and
Okay.
I wasn't a big fan of it, but like listening back, I fucking love it. But
And that's a huge album for Wasp too. The
yeah,
Crimson Idol. Yeah.
we were. It's funny because we were talking about Wasp, how they were considered like a hair band, and we'll talk about Odd
Mhm.
Tours. They're not much of a hair band when they take Slayer and Raven on tour with them.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like,
Well, fuck. Then they toured with Metallica and Armored Saint.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know. It's like, so you're not going to see
yeah,
Warrant torn with Slayer. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, that's
But
why, like,
that was the difference in that mid '80s. There were bands that were more just heavy metal,
yeah,
and Armored Saint was then too
yeah,
heavy metal. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, and then the hair band shit started really becoming a category, I guess.
yeah.
And
But it's
that's where I
like,
think Wasp fell into it.
yeah. But like when you hear people talk about like hair metal bands, they always throw Wasp in there. And it's like I don't know, I just don't agree with that. Just
And I agree with you, but I also think it's how people just generalize shit. Like, I'll generalize Junkyard as being from that hair band era,
yeah,
but they weren't, what you and I would consider a hair band.
yeah,
But they come from that era. They came from the Los Angeles and Hollywood scene. So that somehow that's stuck, all kind of gelled together as, the hair. I mean, but there's also bands hair that are considered hair bands that were, like Dirty Looks. I mean, they're, throwing in that hair band,
yeah,
but they weren't an LA Hollywood band,
yeah,
or even Cinderella. Cinderella wasn't from the Kicks. They were
yeah.
East Coast bands, but they all get thrown in that.
Yeah, like, and I hate that though. I mean, but I hate putting labels on bands anyway. Like I mentioned the grunge thing. I just hate labels.
Yeah.
It's all rock and roll. It's either good or
Yeah,
bad.
man.
I mean, that's
And if you're just not into it, okay, cool.
yeah. I
There's
mean,
clearly going to be enough people that those bands did well enough.
yeah.
You
Well, it's
know.
like, and the hair band term didn't come out to like the '90s after it was over. Like then it's
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
derogatory term. Like
yeah, yeah,
we were kids. It was just like glam. Glam rock
yeah,
or glam metal
yeah.
or whatever.
Hard rock, yeah,
Yeah,
glam, yeah, right. And even then, I didn't care about those whatever. It's like I was either into the band or I wasn't.
yeah. That's,
You
that's how
know.
I was. Like,
And I've looked back now. There was bands I may not have been into back then that I've come back and been like, damn, this is actually pretty good. Like then there
mm,
were some bands I just outright wasn't like into, like Poison's Look or Warrants. That to me, that's the hair band stuff. But
that's the
I like that
epitome of,
first
yeah,
Poison album,
yeah,
and there's Warrant songs that I do like. Um, but I said, it was that look, that
yeah,
I was just like, that's
yeah. Warren is one band I just never get into though. Like,
I
just
said I don't hate them. There's some songs I like, okay. Um, but yeah, I never had any other albums, cassettes, whatever.
yeah. But see, they were one of the later bands too. So, and
Yeah, yeah.
like we said, by that time it's kind of it was just,
Only a few years left. Yeah,
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 and
yeah.
it was so watered down by that point.
Hmm.
The manufactured and shit.
Yeah. But they were a huge band on that
Yeah, yeah, they
Hollywood
were.
scene.
Yeah.
Like there was a show I did watch, saw this has been a handful of years ago, and I know we're getting off topic of the first Wasp album, but of a Warrant show before they got signed at Gazares,
Hmm.
and it looked like it was a good time, man, if I'm being honest. Like
Yeah,
it kept my attention to watch the whole thing. Like it looked like it would have been a good, fun show.
yeah,
So they were a huge band on what the actual Sunset Strip scene. Yeah, Warrant were huge on that. So it made sense why they got signed.
yeah. And
You
those
know,
first two records were huge.
yeah, they are. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, man, the first Wasp. If people want to go back, like I said, I put it like I think you do too. The category of Shout at the Devil. It's heavy, and compared to like what we were saying, nothing like a Warrant, or even a Poison, and that's not disparaging either of those bands, but that shit was heavy. It was heavy metal.
Yeah.
You know, it was it. Yeah, man. I mean, it was
Dark.
truly dark. Yeah,
Uh,
just heavy metal. Like, and like I know you said, like with the shout at the devil, like, damn, am I supposed to be scared of this? You know, like imagine
yeah.
motherfucker throwing raw meat out
Yeah. No
and like
shit.
like with it in his mouth and shit. Like, yeah, like yeah,
I
that's
know,
yeah,
like, imagine going to one of those shows and not knowing who they were or what they were about. You'd have,
yeah,
be like, what the fuck?
yeah. It would have been. I mean, but I think both of us would have immediately been like, damn, I'm into this.
Yeah, oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like, what's this? You know, not like, what the fuck's this? Like,
Yeah,
wow, what's
yeah.
this?
Because,
Yeah.
like, I heard the record, and of course, the album cover is super cool too.
Hmm.
But, like, before I seen videos, I heard the record. So, like, I just knew what they looked like by the album. So I didn't really know, like, then I seen the videos later. And then I heard about the meat and stuff later, like, but when I first got into it, it was like I just knew the music.
Yeah. And I
You know?
didn't get into I think I knew about the, I want to be somebody in Love Machine videos, but I ended up having The Last Command on cassette. And then, it was the same thing. I went back,
Yeah,
Um, so I didn't really start off with them on that first album. I mean, I knew of the couple of videos, but it was the last commit because I love the fucking song "Blind in Texas." I love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I had the first two on vinyl, and then when Circus came out, I got that on cassette. So that was around the
Yeah.
time I started buying cassettes. But yeah, I had the first two on vinyl.
Yeah, that's cool actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
I ended up when I was doing that record collecting, I had those three on vinyl and I had that live record on vinyl also. There was a live one between Inside the Electric Circus and the Headless Children.
yeah,
And that Scream Until You Like It song,
yeah.
that was on the live album.
The Manimal.
No, the Manimal was a
It's
different.
not
There
on
was
the
a.
same one.
Are you saying the Manimals? Oh, the song might be. I thought you were saying you thought Scream Until You Like It was and Manimal were the same song.
No, no, no. I said
No.
and the
Okay.
Manimal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
is. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I
And
love
that
that song, the
Scream.
Manimal, man.
Well, I like Scream Until You Like It. It was
Yeah, that was
because they
from
had a
like the
video for
Ghoulies.
that.
Yeah,
Yep,
it was on
Ghoulies,
the
one of the
yeah,
Ghoulies movies.
yeah,
Yeah, they had a video for that. I mean, I love the humble pie cover. I don't need no doctor. I mean,
mm,
I know it from Wasp, and
yeah,
then now how I've fallen in love with humble pie. Like that guitar riff is just I think one of the best guitar riffs. The I don't need no
yeah.
doctor riff.
See, I didn't like it then just because it just wasn't as heavy. I mean, Last Command was they started getting less heavy, but
Mm-hmm.
then inside of that Electric Circus was kind of poppy. But I love it now. Like I remember, the opening track, like the whole circus thing. I was like, oh, this is super
Yeah,
cool. But then it's kind of like, man, this kind of sucks. But yeah, like I rock the fuck out of it now.
yeah. I even liked it back then. Yeah, I know. I was all about Electric Circus even back then, man. Yeah. I mean, I wish I had seen him then, to be honest. Like, I like that. See, I call that a different era because that was Johnny Rod came into the band,
Yeah,
Blackie started playing guitar.
yeah,
Now I think the whole Piper Holmes guitar team was equally its own thing, though. And I love it the same, but it's
mhm,
two different eras of Wasp for me.
yeah. They've they've kind of changed a lot. Because they said because Headless Children got heavy again.
Yeah, and Benali played drums on that.
Yeah, and then they
So that's a cool one
they
for
even went
me.
like through like an industrial phase on Kill Fuck Die.
Yep, yep,
It's
yeah.
like so they've changed style through the years.
Hmm. And I mean, they fell off with me after the Headless Children. Um, I know that how the Crimson Idol's another huge album of theirs. I've gone back and listened to it, and I mean, I can't say I disliked it, but there was necessarily nothing about it that like kept me coming back to want to. I mean, I may check it out again, but
Yeah, I love
um,
that record.
because it kind of falls in a story thing too, right?
Yeah,
With
yeah. It's got
Chainsaw
the
Charlie, and
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I do think that's cool about it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's fucking cool. Yeah. Matter of fact, when I seen them this last year, I think it was like the would have been 20-year anniversary, 30-year anniversary for that record.
Of the Crimson Idol.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I
yeah,
think you're
30.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they because they did like a set with like a lot of those songs, and then then they threw in like the other shit, you know. But yeah, like I love that record.
Right on. Yeah.
Right? Anything else?
No, that's all I got this time.
All right, five and out.
Yeah. Like, subscribe, comment, 5 and out.